All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Trust But Verify with Josh and Rob. And today we've got a really special guest, Eco's very own CEO, Andy Bromberg. And for those of you that don't know, Andy's the co-founder of not only Eco, but also co-founder of CoinList and exchange and platform that offers user access to unique different tokens and offerings. And everybody's always talking about different projects and different token sales. And so we felt that Andy would be an awesome person to have on and have his expertise to kind of come on and talk about his experience. So, how are you doing today, Andy? What's up?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing? Good.
Doing pretty good, yeah, man. Just another day and living the dream with my buddy Rob over here.
Rob, how are you? Good.
I'm doing good, Andy. It's awesome to have you on and finally have like a actual I guess a modern day face to face. We haven't had the real life visceral face to face, but it's really good to have you on. We're excited.
Totally. Yeah, I was realizing I've only done audio stuff on Discord, so I've only done the talking over audio with no video. So it's good to be in a video thing. And I was saying to him, I'm the first ever Trust But Verify guest, which is a huge honor. So thank you guys for having me. It's awesome. I love you doing the show, and I'm psyched to be here. And I will forever be the first guest. No one can take that away from me. So.
Right.
Absolutely.
Cool. Should we, I sometimes wait a minute. How are we doing on people watching? We can wait a second, let some people tune in, if that makes sense. Let me see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, we got about 26. That's what I'm seeing on mine.
All right. We can probably get rolling here. Maybe give people just nice. We got a screenshot of me looking over my other screen. That's good. We can get started here, and I guess this thing records, so we can record after or watch after. But I just get a ton of questions, as you guys said, as Josh, you just said, about token sales and distributions and all sorts of stuff. I got into crypto back in 2012 to 2013. I've seen the cycles several times now. And I started CoinList, as you said, in 2017. And 4,000 crypto projects came through our doors. We ended up working with like a dozen of them, or a couple dozen teams. And I spent a ton of my time working with those teams on their token sales and how they were distributing tokens, airdrops, all sorts of stuff. And CoinList is an awesome company. It's doing great. Now it offers an exchange, like you said, and staking services and all sorts of things. But it's always been a token sale platform, first and foremost, really. And I spent a lot of time working with those teams. So, we ran token sales for Filecoin and Blockstack back in 2017. That was like early CoinList days. Solana and Celo and Near and Mina and Flow and a whole bunch of them. Done a lot of token sales, and I've spent a lot of time with those teams, plus airdrops and hackathons for Definity and Numerai and Chainlink and The Graph. So worked with a lot of these teams and said no to a lot of teams too. And I've just seen a lot in terms of how tokens are distributed, sold to the world. And like I said, people are always asking the crypto chat channel about CoinList sales, about other stuff. And I see all these questions and asking how I feel about different strategies. And so, I thought it'd just be fun to chat a little bit. You guys said, hey, let's do the show. And it sounded fun to just talk about token sales. I don't have like a speech here. I didn't prepare remarks and like a full, thing, but I think it's helpful to talk about this stuff and just and work through it a little bit. And I wrote down a few. Just look at my notes here. I wrote down a few just like thoughts, lessons learned that I'll run through. And just to be crystal clear for everyone watching, this is Andy's personal thoughts, not CoinList's, not Eco's. This is just what I've seen from almost a decade in the space. 5 years closely watching token sales. And here right before the show, I just jotted down like a few learnings, a few lessons. I guess probably best framed as piece of advice. Things I would say to someone that's thinking about running a token sale for their token project. And I was just thinking about like, what would I tell someone right now that I've learned? I wrote down 7 things. I'll run through each of these and maybe talk for a minute about each of them. And then I know you guys had some questions too. We can run through those after, but if it's cool, I'll just run through these seven pieces of advice. That sound good?
Absolutely, man.
Cool. Let's do it. Here's what I got. Well, I'll say them quickly here, and then I'll talk about each of them for a minute. First, community matters. Second, you got to leave room for adaptability. Third, projects have to find better ways to set allocations for token sales. Fourth, you should focus on the right community members, not just all community members. Fifth, if you do run a token sale, you should give the community good terms in that token sale. Sixth, you should wait to share information until you're sure what you're doing. And seventh, skin in the game matters. And you'll notice that a lot of these include the word community. That's because I pretty firmly believe that everything, token projects especially, but everything, is all about community. Nothing matters more. Communities are what drive success of projects and companies, whether or not companies know it. Their community is what drives their success. And I'm not just saying that because I'm, talking to the eco community here. Like, I actually really believe that, and that's foundational to how I think companies run and are going to run in the future, and projects should happen. And I'll talk through each of these items. There's more we can get into. Like I said, I didn't prep thoroughly, so I'm just going to ramble a minute here and
you're good.
share some off-the-cuff thoughts. Yeah. So the first one, community matters. This is just foundational. It's kind of what I was just saying. Most projects don't appreciate community enough. At CoinList, this would happen over and over again, where a project would show up and they would say, hey, we want to run a token sale. Can we do it next month? And we'd be like, great. How's your community looking? Like, who's supporting you? And they're like, well, yeah, we'll get a community going. We'll run some ads and we'll, get people excited. Doesn't work. Straight up doesn't work. I would say this to them over and over again. Community is a long running thing. Trust is built over the course of a long time, and you have to put in the effort to build that from the beginning. And so most projects, they wait too long to start building a community, and they don't do it thoughtfully. And they just kind of spray it out and see what happens.
Throw it together and just kind of to check a box, so to speak, have the Discord, and that's what it is.
Exactly. They're like, yeah, we'll open up a Telegram channel, a Discord channel, and we'll be good to go. And the answer is that is not, that's the practical elements that you do factually need is a channel for a community to have a discussion in. But the channel is not the community. The channel is the tool for the community.
Right.
And people just miss this. They don't think about how important community is for success. That's really just the first one. It's just community matters. It takes time to build, and trust is earned over a period of time, and people don't pay enough attention to that. So my first piece would be that, just pay attention to that.
It's interesting you say that community would be the first number one thing on your list. What kind of, I don't know, what have you seen in your experience where that maybe certain projects that were able to do that better than others that kind of were able to accentuate themselves?
I mean, the canonical example I always go to, and this one has a special place in my heart, obviously, is Filecoin, which was the first token sale that CoinList ran. Filecoin was building community for years before Filecoin existed. They had this technology called IPFS, the Interplanetary File System, that had been around for 5 years before they even started figuring out what Filecoin was going to be and doing that. And so when they came around to starting to distribute the Filecoin token, there was this vibrant community of people that really cared about the project. And that happens organically itself. That wasn't, again, they ran some ads and got some people interested or anything like that. That was a fundamental, aligned community building exercise where they earned trust by setting things out, delivering on them over and over and over again over the course of their years in existence. And obviously that was an extremely successful token distribution event. But more importantly, that's still what carries that project forward, is that community that they built for years.
Where were you seeing that community being built? Because I know, now Discord is just the de facto go-to. This is, where our community lives. This is where you can get all the information. I personally didn't really know I knew about Filecoin in there, when they were about to ICO and was keeping tabs on the project. But that was mostly just kind of through Twitter. Were they using Telegram, or was Discord a thing? Is that where the community was being built?
Early on, it was actually mostly on Reddit. It was a little bit of a different era, I think, kind of early token sale in the cycle, and people were still figuring it out. But a lot of their community was on Reddit early on, and it migrated over time to Discord. It was Slack for a while, Telegram. But that's almost, I think, an interesting question. It's kind of the point. Like, it doesn't matter. I could have said anything. I could have said Facebook groups.
Right.
I could have said VK. I could have. It doesn't really make a difference. What matters is the community and them caring. Sorry if you hear the sirens in the background. I live next to a fire station. But yeah, so that I think is a big one. And Filecoin's an interesting one too. That ties into the second point I was making, which is leaving room for adaptability. Things change so quickly in crypto. Everything. I mean, whether it's legal, whether it's the market conditions, whether it's best practices, whether it's the technology itself, this stuff changes so much. And giving advice to a token project, I always say, you may think you know what the best thing to do 6 months from now is now. You're probably wrong. Now, that doesn't mean don't think about it. That doesn't mean don't evaluate your options. That doesn't mean don't always be gaming out different scenarios and trying to figure out the best path forward. But it does mean don't commit to paths too early. And again, I saw this. I don't want to name names on the bad examples, but I've seen this before with token projects where they go out and they say, we're going to do X in 9 months. And then, it gets to 6 months from then and they realize that's no longer the right path to get these market conditions or technology innovation, whatever. And they're in a tough spot. Now they're like, okay, we either have to do something that we don't think is the best thing to do, which is not good, or we have to violate the trust of the community that we've built by changing course and saying, I know we said we were going to do X, but we changed our minds, we're going to do Y instead. And so a lot of the advice that I give these token projects when I was at CoinList and would give someone now is, to leave room for that adaptability. Filecoin's plans, they kind of announce stuff as late as possible in the game. And it wasn't that they were hiding anything. It wasn't that they were still kind of unsure of what to do. It's that they knew that things could change. And so rather than risk jerking people around with a bunch of different perspectives, just wait and leave room for adaptability and say it when you're extremely high conviction that it's exactly what you're going to do. So the worst thing you can do is say you're going to do one thing and then pull it out from under people and do another.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes people don't understand that it's not that they were not doing what they said they were. Just like you said, things just change, and you kind of set that expectation of it coming out this day, and people always want it sooner than it's supposed to happen, and always quicker than maybe it even should. So yeah, just kind of going back to setting those expectations that being able.
Yeah, it's definitely a brilliant approach. I feel like the world of crypto always wants to know what's happening next, but it's not always necessary if that project does have that conviction, right? And if that community is behind that project and knows that they're going to deliver. But yeah, I guess not a lot of people really think about companies being flexible or projects being flexible. It's no, they have a problem that they're trying to solve, and it needs to be on the roadmap. And because with the 2017 ICOs, okay, what's their roadmap? Are they hitting their dates, right? And it's does a token project ever hit their date? No.
It's exactly right. The number of sales that get pushed where you're this other thing came up, and it just hurts people. Instead, just leave the room for adaptability and announce it when you're really high conviction. That's the way to build trust. And I think a lot of these things that I'm talking about, it's not even really specific to token projects. This is just about how to operate. If I tell you something that I'm not totally sure is true about anything, sets me up for failure. So I should wait until I'm high conviction about something, anything in life, before I tell you that it's true. Otherwise, I'm just setting myself up to disappoint you in the future. And speaking of disappointing, to keep moving through my list here, we can talk about this. I think it's a tricky one. The third thing I said is for token sales, finding better ways to set allocation. for these token sales. The number one thing I'm getting asked in the crypto chat channel these days in Discord is when these token sales run and they're oversubscribed or they're really popular, this can't be the best way to do it. And it's hard. I think that the challenge here is that I don't know that I've seen a token sale that was oversubscribed and really popular that I thought really nailed how to decide on allocation for people. And it's an impossible situation at some level, right? An oversubscribed sale by definition means people want to buy more than there is available. And that means some people are going to be disappointed at some level, of course. But I believe that these projects have to be more thoughtful about how they set allocation, and that one of the biggest things someone could figure out in this space is a good way to do so for their project. I think that probably has to be specific to the project. I don't think there's like a general solution for the best way to set allocation. If there was, people would have figured it out by now. And so I think projects being more thoughtful about how allocation is set would make a big difference. One answer that some people have said is auctions. It's Dutch auctions or some of these different models. And that works from a price perspective. It does set kind of like the optimal pricing for the asset from a market perspective, but it doesn't necessarily line up in terms of how valuable people will be to the project long term or how the community will adapt over time. And so I think that if projects could find better ways to set allocation, that would make probably a step change difference in how successful they are in the long run. Yeah.
What types of, because we've seen kind of like, at least from what I've noticed from like 2017 up till now, token sales have kind of gone through this, like, a myriad of different, allocations, be it like the ICO to now present day where we have like airdrops or like now the IDO is really popular. Do you think like the progression from ICO to kind of what we're seeing become more popular with like airdrops or initial DEX offerings? What's your opinion on that? Like, do you think it's progress, or do you still think there's a better way to approach allocating?
I think there has to be a better way to approach allocating than anything we've found so far for projects. I don't think anyone's thrilled with how things are going for a lot of these projects. That said, I think these are all just tools in the toolbox that can be put together in different ways to drive different things. They've all got pros and cons. And this is why I don't think there's a general solution. Like, each project needs something different. It needs to think about what the right combination of these tools and abilities is for them and how to do it in a way that gets the best possible results. So much of this comes down to thinking about time scales and what the project is trying to do. And for me, the best crypto projects, the ones that I'm most excited about finding ways to support or even just pay attention to, are the ones with a really long-term, big, ambitious view that care about what happens in the long run and some massive vision being realized over the long run. And how to get there, the path to get to some big vision over time varies project to project wildly. And they need to use these different tools at different times in different ways to accomplish that goal. It's going to be different for everyone. But what I would say is that, I think ICOs and IDOs and airdrops and all of these things are interesting and useful tools. I don't know that anyone's cracked the code yet on how to do allocations well and drive the best thing for their community in the long term. And even if someone does crack that code, I don't think that code will be immediately applicable to everyone else in a straightforward way where it's copy paste what they did over, because each project needs different things. We keep finding great segues here, which is a great one to my fourth point I brought up, which is focusing on the right community members. And right is a tough word. Like, what does right mean? What is the right community member? And that goes back to what projects are trying to do and thinking about what's necessary for the long-term success of these big visions. And and finding ways to serve the people that are going to contribute most meaningfully to that long-term vision, whatever that is for the project, really matters. And I think that a lot of crypto projects we see out there in the market don't do that. They optimize for short-term results and, immediate kind of upside that they can find, rather than thinking about that long-term kind of right community member. And that's a hard exercise to figure out what those people, who those people are, and get them interested and drive results that way. But that's a big piece of advice I would give a crypto project thinking about their token distribution is figure out what you need to accomplish whatever your goal is in the long run, and then think about who those people are that are going to be able to help accomplish that. At the end of the day, these projects are decentralized. The person who's running the sale does not control the thing. It's going to be run by the community. So find those right people and make sure that they're focused on. And this goes into the fifth point, which is give people good terms. Like, this would be my advice to a project. I think it's foreign to a lot of people coming from not crypto, where if you're in traditional business and you're selling something, you want to sell it for the highest price you can sell it for. That's business. Like, drive the most, whatever you can. I think giving people preferential terms, making them feel really good, like doing more for the community than you have to do, is sound advice for any crypto project. Because again, you need these people, if you're a decentralized project or you're building one, committed for the long run. You need them like bought in and aligned. It's not like a good or service that's happening here where it's like, oh, you're buying a cup of coffee from me, I want you to buy the coffee for the most dollars you'll buy it for. It's about getting people bought in and aligned long term. And that's another thing that I think projects do poorly sometimes, is they don't optimize for making sure people are happy. They optimize for just like, what are the best terms I can get that sells this sale out? And I don't really think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I love that concept too. Like, that's kind of an idea as far as what you're talking about with community and making it, impactful for those members, by rewarding them extrinsically, so that they become intrinsically motivated to continue to be a prominent member in that community. I teach public education. I'm a PE teacher at an elementary school, and getting the kids to buy in is a huge thing to have a successful and cohesive long-term school year. And so getting kids to kind of buy in early with some extrinsic rewards that they are really like down for kind of builds that foundation for them to continue to be intrinsically motivated to be a participant all the way through the school year and then the following years as well. So I think that idea not only applies to crypto projects, but a lot of aspects in life, right, that communities are involved in. So
I'm smiling because it's like, yeah, you just talked about elementary school PE class. That's all of human interaction. Like, those are just humans. Yeah, you've got little humans you're teaching PE to. There's some like big adult humans that are involved in business doing things. But at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all want to feel good. We all want a sense of belonging. That's deeply a part of us as human beings. And we want to feel aligned. We want to feel a part of something together. And I think that really matters. So doing those gestures, like, it makes a huge difference for bringing people into the fold, and more projects should be willing to do it, I think.
Yeah, and even bringing in the right people, right? Because right people want to help the community grow, and they want to extend that energy to building the project or furthering the vision of the community. And when they're feeling rewarded or feeling like they have that sense of purpose or reason behind what they're doing, just wants you to keep doing it more and enjoy doing it with people that kind of share the same values.
Absolutely. Just to really quickly by the way, do you guys have to stop at 2:30 here?
No,
I can run a little over. I know there's a ton of stuff here. I can probably do another 10 minutes, 15 minutes after this. We'll keep rolling.
Cool.
Yeah, the two last ones, just to like close out on those, and then we can do some questions if there's other stuff. One of them, I just want to reiterate, this one's kind of a duplicate of an earlier one, but advice to a crypto project, even once you think you're sure about what you're going to do, still wait to share what you're going to do until really it can't change anymore. And I think I just saw this so much at CoinList where projects would be like, we know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go out and say it. And I'm like, I don't think you think you know what you're going to do. But things, again, they change so much. And erring on the side of holding back is critical. And again, it just sets you up for success long term. And in the long run, waiting a little longer to share things totally washes out. Everyone forgets about it and moves on with their lives because the information does get shared at some point. So whether it gets shared 1 week or the next month doesn't actually really make a huge difference. What does make a huge difference is never going back on something that you've said and making sure that you stick with everything that's out there. So that one, I reiterate that all the time because everyone wants to go out and say things as soon as they think they're true. Hold back, especially if there's a big passionate community. I just say to these projects, like, wait until you're really, really sure it can't change anymore, and then do it. And then the last one, just to say quickly, is, Rob, this actually goes to one of the questions you asked. I do think skin in the game matters, and that when people get something completely for free, they don't mentally assign value to it. And so some airdrop models that I've seen kind of fail this test a little bit, where it's like, you get something completely for free for doing nothing, like it just shows up. You don't assign value for it. We actually have something deep within us that reminds us that, there's no such thing as free lunch. We know that. And so when you get something really for free, you're like, I don't know if this actually means anything to me. And so I do think skin in the game matters. And for a project that seeks to build a long-term community, which is I think what every decentralized project needs to do in order to be successful, making sure people have real skin in the game matters because it gets them to make a decision about whether or not they want to commit to the project. And committed people are the only people that can really add value in the long run or will add value. So those are my 7. Just to recap: community matters, leave room for adaptability, find better ways to set allocation, focus on the right community members, give the community good terms, wait to share information until you're sure, and skin in the game matters. And those are the 7 things I jotted down that I would tell an aspiring person hoping to launch a token. I'll stop there. Any questions? Anything we should cover?
I think that was a lot that we covered there.
There's a
Man.
lot.
Yeah, you nailed like most of the questions that we kind of just like had down, which is awesome. Josh, do you have any just like off the cuff questions that?
Yeah, I was just curious. What was like some of like the funniest things you can remember coming across your desk without naming names that you were just like, oh boy.
I mean, listen, we, especially in late 2017, it was ICO mania. And for better or for worse, CoinList was the game in town where everyone was coming to run their token sales. We had this forum up where you could submit, if you had a token project you wanted to launch, and you would submit it. And I would scroll through the Google sheet that forum fed into. And it was crazy. Like I don't know if anyone's ever seen the show like Silicon Valley or, one of these like comedy shows about startups, and you're just reading this, you're like, Potcoin, Poundcoin. Like, I mean, it's just like every possible name coin. You could just put words attached to coins and token this, token that, token everything. And there were some ridiculous, I can't even remember, but we would read through and just be like, this is so crazy. And on one hand, it was funny because it was great entertainment. On the other hand, it's kind of scary because we're looking at this and I'm sitting there with a deep-seated belief in the power of decentralized technology at a fundamental level. This idea that we can have technology that is not run by any one entity, but is instead operated by a community, governed by a community, owned by a community. And that's the promise of all of this, is to build more aligned systems through this technology. And then you see these things and you're like, these are just bad. they're scams, they're frauds, or they just don't make sense.
Yeah.
And there was a real concern there. It turned out, I think, to be unfounded in the long run, but a real concern that was just going to drown out the good stuff. And at some level, we saw it as our job to vet projects and, put them through a vetting process before we worked with them. That was an important role, but it's scary to be staring down the barrel of, 5 projects that you think are maybe compelling and might have a shot at doing something interesting, and thousands that you're looking at and saying, these are just garbage. And, it was concerning about the fate of the industry for a minute. And now I think we've gotten past it. And there's still obviously lots of bad stuff out there in crypto, no question about it. But I think we've made it through and successfully survived, and the signal is outweighing the noise as best I can tell right now.
Cool. That kind of leads me to a question that I had jotted down. Like when you were looking at, this Google form of token projects trying to get listed on CoinList, like from your own personal standpoint, what's more important to you? Is it like the tokenomics and technology behind the project, or maybe the team backing the project? Like if you had to like choose between like tokenomics / tech versus like the team backing the project.
It's a tough one. My answer is team all day. But it's an interesting question. We would vet projects, and I still kind of use this framework on a few different parameters. First, there's kind of 4 things that I think you would look at for anything you're looking to support, whether it's a company or a token project or whatever, which is the team, the product they're building, the market they're serving, and the deal terms. So no matter what you're looking at, you're probably looking at those 4 things: team, product, market, deal terms. And then I would add 2 more that are specific to token projects, which is 1, kind of the token economic model, exactly what you said, and how that works. And 2, the legal structure, regulatory compliance concerns, making sure that the thing is buttoned up and that you're confident it makes sense from that perspective. And those were kind of the 6 pieces that we would look at CoinList: team, product, market, deal terms, token economics, and legal structure. But all of that to me comes from team, right? Like, yes, you should look at all the rest of it and see what the results are, but a great team is going to figure all of those other 5 pieces out. And so I'd bet on that any day of the week, in anything, really. I mean, I'm a big, and this kind of comes back full circle to the start of the conversation, I'm a big bet on people person. That's my attitude. People do everything. Everything comes from people. And you have to bet on people. Betting on community is betting on people. Betting on a company is betting on people. Betting on a token project is betting on people. And yeah, there's knock-on effects. There's things that those people do. That's what ends up creating the result. But those people drive it. And so much, I think, of my personal philosophy is tied up in that we human beings are the creators of so many of these things, and you got to find the good ones and bet on those, and you're likely to be happy with the results.
Yeah, I think it kind of gets lost in the fray a lot in the crypto community and world that, you always see that like typical phrase, in it for the tech, but people built the tech, right? So you got to look at the people too. As much as we want to rely on the tech, there's still people behind that tech. So I think you bring up, an awesome point. It's, bet on people. I love that.
And also, by the way, like betting on people, there's a lot of reasons you can want to bet on someone. So for example, I think Satoshi Nakamoto, whether it's a person or a group or whatever, no idea who it is. Don't know what their credentials are, don't know what they worked on before Bitcoin, don't know whatever. But Satoshi demonstrated a track record of delivering on things and coming up with brilliant, world-changing, paradigm-shifting ideas and delivering on them and being responsive. And you don't even need to know who the person is by name to want to bet on them. But I would bet on that team any day of the week. I have personally, significantly. And so, as I'm sure many of us have. And so, yeah, I think that like even that gets lost sometimes, where people are like, well, what do you, how do you decide on the people? Like, there's a bunch of reasons you can choose to bet on someone. And the biggest one for me ends up just being track record. Do they deliver? Can you see the results? Do they deliver what they promise they say they're going to deliver on? And looking at that doesn't even require meeting their identity sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And on world.
Yeah. Well, it brings up an interesting point and question we had too was, CoinList and Eco kind of, were fostered in 2017 and started. So, for you, what was it like trying to navigate the market environment, and what kind of kept you pushing through building in a bear market? Because, we've seen all the projects that kind of just fell off and have disappeared, but the ones that have kind of stood the test of time and, against all odds, it seems like, to really push and keep working. What was that for you guys?
It's a really interesting question. CoinList and Eco are two different things, obviously, but the motivation comes, I think, from two different places for me. For CoinList, building through the bear market, it was about what I said earlier. It's kind of, what Rob just said, in it for the tech. It was this deep-seated belief that this technology, however you want to define it, decentralized technology, new consensus mechanisms, crypto projects, blockchain technology, whatever kind of word or phrase you want to use to describe this, that there was something amazing happening in this space that was deeply changing the way that things happen in the world, enabling coordination of distributed sets of people towards a common goal in this economically aligned way. And Bitcoin being the first real example of that in my eyes. And I was just seeing that happen and saying, what else could I want to work on? Like that, fundamentally, that shift was so powerful, and I saw the potential, and CoinList had managed to establish a position as, a service provider to the highest quality projects in that sector. And it didn't matter, bear market, bull market. I've been through the ups and downs of the Bitcoin market several times now. I was like, I want to keep supporting these projects and helping create this future that I think so many of us see. And part of that too is on that last piece is that I feel like, and I'm sure you guys feel like, and many of the people in the community feel like, we see this future. Like, we know about this decentralized future, this aligned future, this future where we can have these global communities coordinating on governing and running these protocols. And this is an amazing future. The rest of the world doesn't see it yet. And so there's also a little bit of pride there, saying, I know this is going to happen. I can do my part making it happen. And so running through the bear market was like no issue. Like, who cares? Up, down, doesn't matter. This thing's going to happen. I'm going to help make it happen. And that's really powerful. And then for Eco, it was about this idea of putting your money back to work for you. Just this concept of your money is not working for you today. And we believe there can be something better that puts your money back to work for you, that puts you back in control of your money and brings about this better future. And I would just say, in terms of building in a bear market, it's a totally fair question, but almost just irrelevant for me. Like, when I'm trying to build something, I've got blinders on, I'm trying to build it.
Yeah.
I don't care what Bitcoin's at. I'm trying to build something here. And I do think, to your point, not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but that is the hallmark of a lot of these successful projects, is they just said, what, the market? I don't even know what the market is. I'm just trying to build something amazing here. I'm trying to bring about a future that I believe can exist. And the people that are willing to commit to that and deliver on it are the ones that are successful. It's kind of deterministic. Like, you can just tell when it's happening that someone is going to will something into existence one way or the other.
Yeah, it goes back to everything you talked about with community, with team, with vision, with the right people. It doesn't really matter what number go up or number go down. It's about the vision in the future and what you're all working towards together. So, and
the long view.
Yeah.
Right. And knowing that the future doesn't always happen instantly. Sometimes it takes some time to get to the future, and that's okay. As long as the future happens eventually and we get to that better world. Guys, I unfortunately have to jump. I'm over time. I pushed my call, but this is probably as far as I can push it. Thank you for hosting. This was awesome. And I hope everyone in Discord, I'll check later, enjoyed too. If there are questions, I'll be around Discord as usual after. But super appreciative of you guys hosting the show and having me on. And I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We appreciate it, man.
Cool.
Yeah, we're going to have you on again soon.
I do. Look forward to it already.
Awesome. All right. Have a great day, Andy.
Thanks,
guys. See ya.
Cool. All right, folks. Wow, that was